Canada. Are you my neighbor? Do I know you? All right. So we're also live on Facebook. So if you have any friend, we're live on Facebook. If you have any friend that wants to join, this is the time for them to join before we start. Like I said, as much as possible, we will be maximizing our time. I want us to spend about an hour, hopefully not too much beyond that. So I'll give us an idea of how the session is going to run, and then we'll go straight into the questions. All right, good. Okay, so I think I said I was muted. I'm using two devices, so one is muted, one isn't muted. So I see Nigeria, Canada, awesome. I know there's some people from the US, but mostly Nigeria. Awesome. So we're going to start. I'm going to say a word of prayer and then go straight into our session for today. Our Father, we thank you for the privilege to gather. Thank you for the gift of technology that allows us to just meet with each other virtually. I ask, oh God, that your spirit will just brood over this meeting in everything that we will be sharing today. Let your spirit brood over it and bring illumination to the hearts of everybody listening and everybody that needs to hear this. Lord, hasten the steps of everybody that should be here and isn't here yet. Just bring them so that they can receive wisdom and guidance in accordance with your word. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so welcome everybody. For those that don't know, my name is Bologi Stephen. I am the host of this session. The idea behind this session is actually like if you saw the poster, you saw that it read Odea Mentorship Circle. I have a mentorship circle with some of my mentees, and we have these open house sessions quarterly where we discuss issues and bring in people to share in godly wisdom. We're Christians and we believe that the Bible is our authority. So all of the thoughts, all of the ideas that will be shared in this session will be based on the principles of the Word of God. You might not hear John 3:16 says, and you might hear it as well. But the underlying principle is the Word of God. So that's a brief introduction about this. I'm a lawyer, I'm a media personality, I am a wife, I'm a mother. That's a summary of who I am. And we have two guests today that are amazing, amazing women. And I'm privileged to say that they're also my friends and my sisters. And they'll be joining us and sharing on the topic people and relational skills. We're talking about relationships generally. That's what this session is about. It's not just romantic. In fact, funny enough, I did a poll both with my mentees and on Instagram, and people want to know more about other relationships than romantic relationships. It seems like there has been a lot of focus on romantic relationships, and all other relationships seem to be suffering a bit, if I can put it that way. So today we're talking across a wide range of relationships. Some questions have come in already, and that's where we're going to start from. Please, if you see me looking this way, I'm with you. I have a new baby. She's our youngest participant. She's right here. So I'm just checking on her. Okay. All right. So, like I was saying, we're going to be talking generally, relationships in general, work, colleague relationships, friendship, family, and romantic relationship. We have two guests that are going to speak with us as well, apart from myself. We have Chiagoziem Adindu, and we have Pastor Oro Erhirhie. Pastor Oro will be here shortly. So once she's here, I will read her bio and we will start. How it's going to run, because of the maximization of time, we're not going to do the usual guest speakers will have some time to share like we did in the previous session. By the way, if you're in the previous session, let me see. You can comment that you were there. But if you were not, this is also a good time to be a first timer. But how we're going to do it, we're going to run straight into the questions that have come in. And between all the questions that we'll have, there will be a fair, a fairly wide range of answers provided. And then if there are any other questions from the house, we will take them. Okay? So I'm going to read the bio of our first guest, Mrs. Chiagoziem Adindu. And so that we just have an idea of who she is and the wisdom to expect. Chiagoziem Adindu is a lawyer, a chartered company secretary, etiquette consultant, and a socialpreneur. Her passion for social change led her to co-found and lead the Educate the Citizen International Organization, a nonprofit that aims to bridge the quality education gap in Nigeria through various social skills and character development programs. She also convenes the Woman to Woman Support Group, a platform for visionary women seeking growth and capacity building on their journey of purpose. Let me pause and say at this point that this is not a women's meeting. I'm just reading about our guests, okay? Because I've already seen some men up here. So please don't log out and be like, oh, wrong room. No, you're in the right place. Everybody is involved in relationships. Chiagoziem is a kingdompreneur with an unwavering passion for the kingdom of God and has been tasked with raising a new generation of believers who understand their true identity and purpose in life. Her message is clear: empower people to live authentically and audaciously for their king. Her favorite phrase, you must discover you, and when you do, let the world feel you, encapsulates this. She's married to her loving husband, Frank Adindu, and they are blessed with two beautiful boys. All right, that is Mrs. Chiagoziem Adindu. She's right here with us. Our second guest is Pastor Erhirhie, and I'm going to read her bio as we start. Erhirhie is the founder of Colors of Hope Global, an organization focused on raising men and women of influence and impact across various spheres of the world's economy. Through Colors of Hope Global, Oro stewards the Colors of Hope Leadership Institute and the Colors of Hope Family Circle, that's an academy and a ministry, both fulfilling the vision to invest in lives, the truth and principles of the word, unlock purpose and potential, improve self-knowledge and self-governance, leading to clarity of vision and kingdom deployment in purposed spheres of influence. She currently leads a team of proficient leaders committed to building other leaders and is passionate about building structures on the foundation of love, truth, and family. She serves daily as a pastor, a teacher, a loving wife, and a mother. So these are the two quality women we have that will be sharing with us today. And without further ado, I'm going to go into our first question, okay? If you just give me a minute, I just want to reconfirm if Pastor Rose is here yet. Okay, she's almost here. So while we wait for her, we'll start with the first question, and Mrs. Adindu can, take us with that. So the first question, feel free to engage in the comments, feel free to make your comments known, just comment and engage really. And if you have questions, so it's not lost in transmission, just hold on to them. Once we're done, you can put them and we'll take them live, okay? So our first question, talking about relationships, Mr. Adindu, why is it important to master relational skills in life? And can a person actually learn to be more relational. Some people, how we hear, oh, this is just how I am. Normally, I don't like people, you know. So can people actually learn to be more relational? And why is it even important to master relational skills?
Thank you, Miss Bologi. Stephen, please let me know if you can hear me. I'm having issues with my earpiece. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Let me start by saying that I do not take for granted the opportunity to be a part of this meeting today. I always look forward to having wholesome conversations in whatever capacity, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to address your inner circle and every other person who has been invited from outside of the inner circle. Um, Question number one today is, I think it's so key to our existence and our ability to thrive on this side of eternity. So, question is, why should we build relational skills? I want to sound very deep, but without wanting to just I want us to converse bottom line, and I don't want to have to do any Greek meaning conversion into today's English word. But basically, we're relational beings. It just goes without saying. And in fact, when I saw the question, I laughed and I said, these are basically the things, I mean, we're calling it relational skills now, but these are basically the things you were taught from when you were young. When someone comes into your house and this is how you greet them, right? And this is what you say, and this is what you do not say. Um, so I think to answer the first question, I would say the first thing is because we're relational beings, and it's something you're going to find yourself doing all through life, right? Basically, you're going to have to interact. So even when I hear people, and I've heard it a lot, people say, I really don't like people. I like to be by myself. I enjoy my own company more than I enjoy the company of people. I mean, I'm not going to fault you on that. I'm just going to say that at some point, you're going to have to interact with other people, whether it's in the hospital or in the market, and have the time. Have the time. The difference between having a successful conversation, I mean, a successful relationship or relationship that yields your own interests or gives you the result you're wanting. So the difference between someone who gets what they want from a relational experience and someone who doesn't get is not really the content as much as it's about the way you did it, right? Um, I do a lot of etiquette training. I'm very passionate about social skills. And I think for me, the motivation is that when I looked at our educational system in Nigeria, I noticed that there was a lot of gap in the quality of our education. So you leave school, for instance, and then you find out that when you go for an interview with your first class or your 2-1, nobody taught you how to speak. You lack confidence. You don't know what to say. You don't know if you should shake hands. You go for an interview and they probably give you water to drink. Do you collect or don't you collect? Those kinds of basic things. And I'm saying that sometimes with you and your intellectual acumen and everything you have upstairs, if you don't have the right relational skills, it makes a whole difference in the kinds of outcomes you get. And someone who basically has a third class walks into the room, has the skills, the relational skills, bamboozles these people and they get the job. And then it looks like, oh, this life is not fair, right? So I'm just in many ways and using many words, I'm trying to not just buttress why we need relational skills, but how it translates into positive outcomes in your everyday life. One of the things we say when we go for our trainings is character will get you to places that the best of education will not get you. Sometimes your education opens your door, into stuff or into opportunities, but half the time is your character, not just your good behavior, but your relational skills that keeps you in there or causes you to grow once you get into a space where the door has been opened for you. I don't know if I've answered A. So the B question is, can you grow? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a skill. And like every other skill, it's possible to get better at it. Again, I'll always cite what we do in Educate the Citizens International Organization, the NGO I co-founded. And what we do basically is help people navigate different relational networking opportunities, whether it's at work or it's in the house, or you're just trying to get better at being confident and being eloquent and speaking. We train a lot of people, and it's amazing to see how people walk in with a certain type of posture, get the sufficient knowledge they need, do a little bit. We love to do a lot of simulation exercises, and boom, they're fantastic, right? So with the right knowledge, with the right kind of community and persistence practice, everybody can be better at relationship. I don't know if that makes sense and if it captures if it answers the person or the group of people who asked this question.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
does. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome, Pastor Oro. So we just started with the first question. I've read your bio and we're just going straight into the questions. Thank you, Mr. Adindu, for that response. The truth is, we can't always say, oh, this is how I am, and refuse to develop. You know, Bible says my people perish for lack of knowledge. And then also, it's important that part of gaining that knowledge is a rewiring of our mindset. And so when you're here, you're gaining knowledge, you're having a mindset shift. It's going to affect your behavior out of the abundance of the heart, out of what you know, out of what you're fed. It will come out, you know. So, and even in the practical terms, with what Chichi's organization does, I've witnessed some of those changes of people coming and with knowledge and training, they do better, they become better, you know. So I would just ask this question to Pastor Oro. Generally, what are some relational skills for general relationships? How we're going to run is, so these are general questions, then we'll go into the work questions, friendship, family, and romantic. Those are how the questions came in. So on a general scale, can you let us know 1, 2, 3 really important relational skills that you believe people should have?
Muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said thank you for the question. I'm sorry I'm late. Unforeseen circumstances. Yes, relational skills. I think one of the foremost relational skill you must have anywhere is a culture of patience. It's the culture of patience. Patience takes a very long time to be built in a person, a very long time. But as we begin to practice patience, we find that we are more regulated, we are more emotionally sensitive, and we're just generally sensitive. Patience is a skill that if you really hone, because what is patience? Or let's practicalize what patience can look like. You take 1, 2, 3 breathers, right? And take 2 steps back and just try to perhaps view situations differently. Your ability to self-constrain helps you through situations that are heated up, helps you through escalating situations. So I believe that patience is one of the skills to hone, to have better relationships. Another amazing skill is love. Now, I would draw that from the definition of love as with scripture, 1 Corinthians 13. Like I said, at first we said love is patient. Love is also kind. Love holds no record of wrongs. Love does not boast. Love does not easily envy. So I could, just go on and talk about love for the longest time. I could do that. But love is something that must dwell in the heart. The ability to not envy, the ability to not boast, those are things that those are skills that you can, over time, with great desire, develop in yourself. It might seem, yes, I know I'm referring to scripture, but those people in the world that have honed these skills, right? What God does for us is that he makes things easy. So when we come to God, he makes things easy. He sets out like principles that would help us succeed in life. You see that the person that doesn't know God but has the ability to internalize. There are a lot of words, there are a lot of different words for these things in corporate environments, right? They'll say co-regulation between you and your child. They'll say, you have to be able to, if you work in the healthcare areas, you have to be able to co-regulate yourself, between you and your child, between you and your anybody dependent on you. Basically, you have to be able to co-regulate, regulate yourself in order to regulate the person. There's self-regulation between you and your colleagues. You're able to regulate yourself enough to have a very good conversation, and these are what now stems down to emotional intelligence that is being taught in the corporate world. But if we took love and we broke it down, love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, love holds no wrongs, you find that all the emotional intelligence skills are packed into what loving is. Because loving is not just between a boy and a girl. Loving is the ability to take steps back and see a person from the perspective of God. Actually, that's what loving is. It's to be able to take a pause from what you might be experiencing, what you might be feeling, and see another person from that perspective of God. Like, how in this situation does God see the person? And boom, you have a very different idea of that person. And I'm just going to give an example before I stop. You have a situation with a friend, your boss, a colleague, whoever, and they hurt you. And so you're dwelling on your hurt. You're dwelling on your hurt because that's as all men do. Like, you're first thinking of yourself. You're dwelling on your hurt. But when you are able to stand in the unbiased umpire, who happens to be God, he's the unbiased umpire between both parties now, right? If you can stand in the space where God is speaking, you can then begin to see what the other person is saying and then be able to bring grace into that relationship, whether or not you are actually really close with the person or really far from the person, whether it's just a person putting fuel in your car, or it's your boss, or it's your spouse. Once you can see the situation, not just from your perspective, but you can look at the other person's perspective. You can take 2 steps and look at the other person's perspective, not necessarily the other person's perspective. You can take 2 steps back and look from a higher perspective. And as in this case, I'll refer to God, a higher perspective. You can begin to see the entire situation. How was that person's morning before they spoke to you? What does that person know? You can't judge a person based on what they don't know. What does that person know that makes them thick, that makes them able to, like, what do they know or don't know? You can't judge an ignorant person. You can be sad that they're ignorant. You can be stressed out that they're ignorant. You cannot like that they're ignorant. But a person that has never known love, for instance, like that has never known affection, let me say affection, cannot give affection. So if you can stand in a point of view where you can say to yourself, give me understanding of this situation, right? Just give me understanding. Let me have an understanding, a higher understanding of this situation. You can better be able to navigate relationships. So I would say patience as on its own, but love as a whole, as a whole package. Patience, perseverance, and all the works that love has. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such a holistic answer, to be honest. And I mean, loving is the ability to take a step back and view another person from the perspective of God. Like, that's it. That one stood out for me. So she gave us some skills and some emotional intelligence skills that would help us in every relationship. I allowed us to start from this point and give them some time to really talk about this because this one cuts across everything. To be honest, if you leave this session right now, you have gained something already, but don't leave just yet. We still have some more. So flowing from an example she gave about the workplace, we're going to talk about the workplace because a lot of us are working and people are seeing things at work. So this question says, this is the a personal question from somebody who believes that her boss is emotionally unintelligent. So she says, what is the right approach or strategy to use at work where your boss is emotionally unintelligent and a poor listener? I would like I would like our two guests to answer. So please keep it concise, but still give us what we need as much as possible. Don't let the conciseness break you understand what I mean? So yes, should I take the question again or are we good?
I think I've got it.
Okay.
Same here.
All right. So Mr. Adindu, you can go first.
When I saw the question, I laughed because I don't know why I laughed out of excitement that I wasn't the only one going through what I was going through. I laughed because I was triggered because I have like multiple experiences of working with people who lack emotional intelligence. And you see what I was saying earlier on about the lack of this kind of information in our educational system, right? So these are people who are now bosses, heading organizations and parastatals in government agencies, and they act in certain ways, and you're like, you're my oga, you know? I'm saying it's hard, and I totally relate to what this person is going through. And I also, just for clarity, for people who are saying, when we say emotional intelligence, I would like for us to put it in context so that people also know what it shows up as. It shows up as poor listening abilities, or your boss consistently shutting you down, or just lack of empathy, right? I've had lack of empathy a lot. Or you have someone who just has the inability to regulate their emotions. I mean, an extreme part of lack of emotional intelligence, and then I said an extreme because it flows into something else, is I've heard of bosses that hit their staff. So I'm hoping we're not talking about that kind. I'm just talking about the one that shows up as emotional outbursts and people, you're having a boss that just doesn't appreciate people, very critical, says things that shouldn't be said in public. I once had a boss, I was pregnant at the time with my first child. My colleague came to the office and she was just, slow. And my madam said, "Are you pregnant?" And the girl said, "Yes." And from downstairs, she just starts running upstairs to tell her husband, and we could hear her all the way upstairs. "These two girls are pregnant. Oh, can you imagine?" In the whole office, you know? So it shows up in different forms, and it can make the workplace a very toxic place. So first thing, I want to acknowledge that you're not alone. I want to say I understand how frustrating it is, but I also want to say that now that you are aware that your boss, like you are able to pinpoint what they have, I think you're 50%, you're asking for an approach. I'm saying you're 50%, you've 50% worked the maths. So that's fantastic. It's not that bad. So the first thing I would say is don't take it personal. Like now we know there's a problem. Don't take it personal. It's not you. Something is not wrong with you. You're not mad. This person has a problem. You've identified it. So don't take it personal. Don't let it affect your esteem. Don't let it, I mean, to say don't let it affect you and your productivity might be me pushing it, because it might affect it. But at least I want you to know it's not you. So when these things happen, don't take it personal. Secondly, I'll say acknowledge it. And then if it's a very dicey situation, because as I'm talking, I'm thinking of different scenarios. But if you have a boss who is just unaware, that's one. You might also have a boss who is unaware and simply doesn't care. They're not correctable. You just can't work up to them. But if you have a boss who is simply unaware, it might be an opportunity for you to look for ways to let them know how what they're doing is affecting your productivity. Like I said, don't make it personal. Don't make it about how you feel. Some people don't really care about your feelings at work. You want to talk about how it's affecting your productivity and your work, because that's what joins you guys. That's the linking relationship, right? You guys are at work to achieve stuff. So you can let them know how you would really appreciate if maybe they stop shouting, because it kind of shuts you down and you're not able to be productive, or if they just stop embarrassing you in public and instead they should take these kinds of approach in relating with you. I would want to do that in a very, very polite way. But more importantly, restrain yourself. Please restrain yourself. Don't have an outburst, especially if you're able to identify that this person has a character flaw. In your ability to restrain yourself, I will say be empathetic. I don't know, like I said, it's a good thing. I know that some of us are joining from the US, from Nigeria, but a lot of us are from Nigeria. This is not something they taught us. This is not a discussion we have at home. We don't have it in school. It's those of us who are gradually becoming aware that are, having conversations like this. So empathy comes from just knowing that this person doesn't really understand. Maybe they don't understand how deep their bad behavior is and how it's affecting everybody. And then I want you to be consistent in your approach. So if you're consistent, if you think you have a boss who would listen to you when you say, I really don't like, how this happens, I want you to be consistent about it. And I'm going to talk about consistency in one other part. My point is, in behavioral changes, you don't want to just say it once and assume that the change is going to happen over a period of time. You want to consistently but politely keep insisting on how you want to be treated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are very practical tips. And while you were speaking, a lot of what you were saying, linking back to what Oro said, are still like under, certain things that are in the scripture. Like when you say restrain yourself, it's self-control, So it's very, very, very important. So Oro, you can pick up from there, please.
All right. A boss that is not able to self-regulate themselves. First of all, I think you need to know how long you are going to be there. It's not your wife, it's not your husband. There are different approaches when it comes to different relationships. It's a work relationship, it's a professional establishment. You don't need to be there if you don't have to be there. 1. 2, you need to know how long you want to be there. How long do I want to stay in this place? And when you're speaking to that, you need to be able to establish what you're gaining from where you are. It gives you staying power. I'm going to lay this on the foundation that you can't change people. They are not your spouse. They're not your children. They're your boss. So I don't know how you want to change them. I'll speak to 2 different places. I worked in Nigeria, then I work now in the AU in Australia. I worked in Nigeria and we don't have professional relationships in Nigeria. They can send you to go and buy pure water. They can send you things that are really upsetting. Because I was a lawyer and I practiced under someone for a while. And I experienced those things. There's no boundary between like home and work most times. Not all organizations. People are getting better. Like the other speaker said, people are getting better, right, at speaking about these things and implementing them in their organizations. But in Nigeria, there's no demarcation between how you speak to a person. There's no professionalism. Here, you can even say, you spoke to me wrongly, mental health, I don't feel good. You can actually, and they would really, 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 really treat that matter as, like, they would take it as very important. If you speak about it's affecting your mental health, they would take it very, very, very important. But in Nigeria, we don't have that system. The environment is very unprofessional. And once you're younger, tradition comes, religion comes, age comes, and all those things come into play between you and your colleagues, you and your boss, and all those navigations. So because of that, I'm asking you, what value are you getting from that place? For instance, I'm going to just give an example, not a real one, just a hypothetical example. You finish from law school and you need a place to learn for a bit before maybe you start your practice or before you go apply to a company and become a company lawyer. You have a goal in mind. I think you should do that if you don't have one. If you have a boss that is not really wonderful, you should keep a goal. You should start by setting your goals. It keeps you in perspective. You have a goal in mind. I want to serve for 5 years, and then after 5 years, I leave this place. In fact, I'm going to give you a personal example. I've been working in the AU. I've been working in my company for a while, and I have the opportunity now because I've gotten a more permanent visa. I have the opportunity now to apply to a government organization. I work right now with a non-governmental, non-for-profit. I have the opportunity right now to go to a government organization, which is more stability. But I'm not going to do that right now because I've set out the amount of years I want to spend in the organization I'm in. That's because I want to have stayed in this type of organization, in this type of role for a certain amount of years, and I want that to reflect in my CV. I have a goal. I took that job with a goal in mind. I want to be in this position so that I want to be in a leadership role so that it can help me open up more leadership roles in other organizations. So I'm just breaking it down, and I'm just, using myself. And so, someone said, oh, why not you just apply to a government organization? I said, I feel like that's the natural, I've been hearing that a lot. That's the natural thing to do, to get a bit more stability, to get paid and paid parental leave, right? As you start to grow, you get married, you start to have children, those things come into play. You would love to get a parental leave that has pay. Organizations that organizations that are private sometimes do not pay. Government would always give you paid parental leave. They'll both give you parental leave, but so it just gives you more opportunities, is what I'm saying. So, but I told the person, I said, I don't think that now is the right time for me to move. I don't want to be changing jobs in this my season, as I just had a baby. And I'm giving you these examples because I'm very life conscious, right? Like I'm very, how do we do this life? Like how do we do the reality? I don't really like I like to break it down to the living of the life, because we deal with really important issues in the living of the life. It's very different from the theory of the life. So I've just had a baby. I can't change jobs now. It won't be a very wise idea for me to change jobs now. To get used to the system of the job of the office I'm working in took a while to get used to their system. Every organization has a system. To get used to their system, to create relationships. It's not even friendships I'm talking about. I'm talking about professional relationships. To create professional relationships, enough for a boss to know that, okay, I can count on you, or at least know your skill, and just all that I deliberately worked on. I'm not going to start doing that right now when I just had a baby. Right now, I want to leverage on my relationship with that organization and be able to say, I need to take 2 days off because I know my boss. Well, it's a professional relationship and I'll take a professional leave. But I got pregnant in that organization. I took leave in that organization. So for instance, if I need to do a school run in that organization, it presents a more friendly place than a new place that I don't know. I mean, you could go out and then get better. But for now, I'm thinking the devil, Now, I give all that because of this, I'm going to say. How long do you want to be there? It's not good for anybody's health, mentally, socially, economically. It's not good for you at all to be in a place where you're constantly berated. You don't need to stay there if you have other opportunities. But I understand that having a job is very important in the first place, like just having a job and having like pay. What are you doing to build yourself? So I want to conclude on how long do you want to stay there, so I don't forget a thought. So how long are you going to stay there? So in your goals, how long do I stay here? What am I looking for in this organization? It's not your organization. Is it a long journey? Do I want to stay 10 years here? Do I want to stay 2 years, 3 years here? So every time you have those conversations with the person that is not being very empathetic or being very emotionally intelligent, you can remind yourself that you're not there for the longest time. It shouldn't affect your productivity because you want to do a good job, but you understand that this is a seasonal thing. I'm here for this time. I'm putting in good work. And by this time, I don't need to be here the long haul. So I don't need to put the kind of work I'll put into my marriage. Marriage, for instance, is a very different relationship. I'm going to be here for a very long time. So I need to put in the work. So I need to put in more work. So imagine you're married and you're putting in work in your marriage, and you're putting in work in the workplace. You're having a very funky boss, and then you also need to definitely put in just your general work into your marriage. It's not easy to do both. So that professional relationship, you have to access it. What value are you getting from there, and how long can you stay there? Is it a situation where it's small? It's just small. It's something you can cope with. Is it a situation like my co-host and my speaker said? Is it a situation where you can actually speak to the person? You need to analyze your situation. Is it a situation where you can speak to the person? and the person is actually a person that will listen to you and not feel insulted, and then your relationship becomes even worse, right? Is it a thing where, you know what, it's not someone you can necessarily speak to, but you know someone that can speak to them? Is it a situation where, like I said initially, you know that you're getting value from this place, you're getting money, paying your rent, those things are important, pay your rent, you can't be emotional about things like that. It's paying your rent, you're getting money, you know, but you're there for a while. Okay. Then the third thing, what are you doing to leverage yourself so that you can leave that place? You can't be in a situation that has non-permanence. I don't encourage any relationship with non-permanence. I don't encourage perpetual suffering, not long suffering, perpetual suffering in any situation that does not have permanence. The only thing I think has permanence is sibling relationship, blood relationship, marriage relationships. Those have permanence. So you know why you are putting in the work. These people, you cannot throw them away. But this relationship does not necessarily need to exist in the next 5 years. So you can tell yourself this is not going to exist in the next 5 years. So now I'm asking you, what are you doing to leverage yourself to get a better opportunity and get a better place in your journey in life? So while you're there, are you taking courses that will get you a more professional role? That will get you a better role? Because people are going to be people. Like, people are always going to be people. You're going to meet different people in your walks of life. But how do you leverage yourself? So what are you doing to bring in more? Okay, I'll get there. What are you doing to bring in more to yourself so that whenever you want to leave that space, you can be successful wherever you go? You can be more successful wherever you go. You leave that position and you can get something better where you're actually even, able to now be the one in charge of others and able to give that empathy and emotional intelligence. Lastly, are they speaking to your inadequacies? Because sometimes it's easy to shift the blame. Please check. Is your boss complaining about you? Is your boss being... Is it you that is the problem? How is your work? What can you do better to improve? What can you do better to adjust so that your stay in that place is fruitful? And like all things, I would say, regarding all things that you've heard, at least from me, don't be emotional. You need to pay rent. Don't be emotional. You don't make life decisions with emotions. It hurts. It does. But like I said to you, have a plan for your life. God will give you patience through the season of any form of persecution, right? No season stays the same. So you too, you need to be trying to see how you can do leverage so that you don't have to be in that season your entire life, right? But also check yourself. Check yourself. Sometimes we have bad behavior. We have unrealistic expectations, especially this new generation of people that are working. Like, you have to come to work. You have to do the work. You have to do the hours. Abroad, you have to do the hours. In Nigeria, you may even be able to sneak away from your job, have someone else do it for you. Abroad, you get paid by what you do. So you need to develop that kind of culture if you believe that you are being called out for dominion and you actually want to go far in life. Like, how do you start to build yourself internally and also externally? Certificates, certifications, more courses, these kinds of programs, and the other kind of programs that my guest, my co-speaker, spoke about, things that build you up, not just in your certification, but also internally, so that you can leverage and get the next best thing. All right, I think that's me.
Thank you very much. I love the practicality of the answers, honestly. It doesn't leave you wondering what the next step is. From the two answers put together, you clearly know what your next step is. And so I'll just add from what they have both said. I haven't done all of this, especially if you know that this is not the long-term place to be. Don't Make sure you're leveraging and building, make sure you're having things that are growing you. You're enrolling in programs that are developing both your professional skills and your soft skills, so that it helps you to know that, okay, this is not forever. And when I leave, I'm leaving to something better, somewhere better, because I have been able to grow myself. Moving on quickly to our next question, still relating to the workplace. You know, part of why we're having this meeting right now, when it should have been earlier, is scheduling. I'm in Canada, Ms. Adindu is in the US, Pasoro is in Australia, time zones, and all of that. But also, why they are here, another reason why they are here is because they are able to speak to a lot of the questions and concerns that had come in for this. So this next question is about cultural awareness and especially dealing in a diverse work environment. So yes, of course, in Nigeria, we're very, diverse people in Nigeria, but even more so when you are now abroad, because I also know some people on this session that are either currently abroad or planning to move abroad. So whether you're in Nigeria or you're abroad, you're dealing with different cultures, a diverse group of people and whatnot. How do you increase your cultural awareness? Do you even need to increase your cultural awareness, or is your culture the most superior and everybody else should just bow to who you are? Again, I'm going to start from Mrs. Adindu. She might need to step out at some point of this meeting, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to juice her as much as possible before she steps out, and hopefully she can come back even if she does. So yes, how do you increase your cultural awareness in a diverse work environment?
So since I'm the one mostly starting, let me start with definitions. Again, I don't want to sound deep. Cultural awareness is basically ability to respect, identify, and respect the different cultures around you. Is when I came to the US and I realized that we take cultural Nigeria is it's a whole new world entirely. We're actually very culturally diverse, but we don't even take it seriously. Like maybe because we know ourselves and we've lived with each other for a long time, right? But you can be very strong-willed, more like opinionated about your beliefs. And sometimes, if you notice how we live in Nigeria, those are the reasons why we have a lot of clashes, because everybody feels like, I'm a whole Igbo girl. Igbo people don't do like this. Yoruba people don't do like this. Hausa people don't do like. I can never. And somehow we've managed. But when you leave the shores of Nigeria, it hits differently. And I remember when I was speaking to Bologi when we were in the US together, and we're talking about some of the cultural shocks. See, when I saw this question, I started laughing. Cultural awareness is so key. Whether you're in Nigeria or you're outside of Nigeria, that awareness that there is a whole world outside of you, that you do not exist in a bubble. And even if you do exist in a bubble, that other people also have their own bubbles, and no bubble is superior to the other. That is like the beginning and end of cultural awareness. Your cultural competence now comes where you are now able to live in your bubble, allow people live in their bubble, control how you feel about people and their ideas. And it's so hard because usually we're set in our ways. You grow up, for instance, in a Christian family or in a Muslim family, and you're taught strictly that this is the true way of living. It takes a lot of intelligence, even emotional intelligence, to move to a different jurisdiction or climate and find people doing the exact opposite of what you believe in and live peacefully with them. Sometimes it's not even you trying to be in conflict, it's you being able to respect them and control how you feel about them. It's a whole different world out there. And I'm happy that we're having these conversations, whether you're in America or out of the country or even still in Nigeria. These are conversations I am so excited at every point in time to be a part of. It's so key and nobody teaches us these things. So now to the main question, with definition and setting the background aside. How do you grow? I would say, first of all, my fellow Nigerians, work on your emotional expression. So you know how you hear something very shocking, you're like, from now, from now. So my friend was telling me something that happened last week. She was working with a group of people, and then someone says, "Oh, before I was 21, I had moved stuff from malls. What's I think $10,000 or $100,000. Like moving means she had stolen stuff from shops worth 100,000. So she was just gisting random gist. And the other person who was there said, "Oh, me too. you know, me too, I had done my own, and this is where I grew up. I used to steal from shops. And my friend was just listening, like, say we're having a conversation, like, oh, whose granite is sweeter, or whose kuli kuli. Like, why are we having normal conversations? Like, it's normal. And they were like, oh, yeah, but they have a personal policy. They don't steal from individuals. They just steal from, you know, big organizations because it's nothing. And so someone said, oh, you got a klepto. The other person said, oh, yeah, I got a klepto too. And they were laughing about it. And my friend said it took everything inside of her, plus God, plus home training, to just have a facial expression like, like it wasn't shocking, right? And I'm giving that as an example or a funny example of what cultural competence will look like. That's in a funny way. But there are times when you have to be in the same office or in the same group on a particular project with people who believe exactly what you do not believe in or who are totally different from you. And you have to learn to just regulate yourself. And I'm happy that we've worked a lot on culture, on emotional intelligence. This is one part where I would say all of your emotional intelligence strategies would need to be in place. Again, I'm going to be very practical. I'll encourage you to work on your facial expression. Secondly, ask questions. One of the things, and I'll speak to the Christian part of it. And again, I'll mention how Bologi and I were talking about our experience. When we came to the US, it was like, these people are not very spiritual. Their prayers are very simple. As now they finish praying. They don't even really move their body. We were coming from a place where God speaks to us, the Holy Spirit. We speak in tongues. They don't even speak in tongues. And we just had this holier than thou attitude. It's like, what can you teach me? In fact, can you guys be promoting me to bishophood already? Let me tell you how it's done. Let's bring the Holy Spirit down here, you know? And then we start to see that, we really do not know a lot. We really do not know a lot. There are so many dimensions to the worship of God, and every dimension is valid. I'm just using all that also as an example. And we start to see the simplicity and the beauty of a certain type of way of worshiping God that is not very common in our own climate or in our own country. So I'll say ask questions. Number 2, be interested in what people are sharing, even if it sounds absurd. I don't care. Oh, I have had a lot of encounters with all kinds of people, LGBT, this one, that one. Really? Wow, tell me about it. You don't want to be disgusted, and please don't cancel anybody. Maybe in your bedroom. But in your front, ask questions, be intentional, show a lot of interest in what they are saying, try to understand how they reason. Like, just be open-minded. That's the first thing you need to know about cultural awareness. And like I said, facial expression, your words, be clear and concise. There's a way we speak as Nigerians. People misunderstand it. Sometimes we have conversations, people don't even understand us. I was speaking with someone yesterday. I'm a lawyer. She called me to talk about marital issues. And she said, my husband said, in fact, I don't want to repeat it. He said, my enemy will die. I say, Auntie, when you come to my office tomorrow, and the lawyers are asking you, please don't tell them that. Give them the facts. You're telling them that your husband said your enemy will die. Just tell them that he threatened you and he said you're going to kill you. Do you see, like, you want to be very clear in your conversations, because some of the things we see and we get away with, people don't understand it and it can be read differently. I also use an example to say I was having a conversation with somebody and I said, it was a joke. I said something and it was a joke, but they didn't understand. It was for a Nigerian setting and the lady took offense. I had to go back to say, what I meant was X, Y, Z. Right? So while you're asking questions and you're showing interest, try to speak clearly about what you're saying and try to provide clarifications. And then you to share about your culture. Always share about your stand. Even when you're in Nigeria, don't be ashamed to talk about your Christianity. Don't be ashamed to talk about your Yoruba culture. Don't be ashamed to talk about your values. In fact, it's my experience here, having lived here in America for this long, that I realized I love being Nigerian. I will not change my accent. I'm almost always on braids or kinky things. I'm no longer wearing my straight hair. Personally, like, I'm embracing my Nigerianness to the core. Sorry, man.
Just throwing
Actually
shade on
looked at
those of
your
us that
hair.
are wearing wig. It's okay, go ahead.
Actually looked at your hair, right? But my point is, share. We are a wonder to the world. I come out, everybody's like, oh my God, I love your hair. I love your prints. If you wear Ankara, everybody's just true. You're like, Ankara. You've not even seen my lace. You've not even seen my gele, you know? we have so much going for us. So when you get into spaces where people are sharing about their cultures or whatever, talk about your own and be proud about it.
Thank you very much. I'll add to that and then we'll move on to the next question. And what I just want to say is basically what she has said, but I will want to reemphasize some things. When you're dealing with cultural awareness, to ask this question, yes, absolutely. It's very important to tell our own stories. When you're talking about cultural awareness, you already know that there is diversity. I want to point out something I always say. Difference does not always mean that one is inferior. Many times we're told to think that if two things are different, one must be wrong, one must be inferior, in a sense of it. So appreciate the other person. So when you acknowledge their culture, appreciate their culture. Oh, this is how you do things here, especially for those that find themselves in other countries where in Nigeria, as diverse as we are, there's usually some form of underlying similarity. Now, if you meet a culture that is totally different from yours, find something to appreciate, because even when you share, you don't want to be that person that's always critical. If you are always critical, people would hardly even listen when you do share. So listen to them, like she said, appreciate something that is good in their own culture, right? Learn language. What she said, little things. I was studying screenwriting in the US and I wrote a script, part of what we did, and peer-to-peer review. There were some things in my screenplay that my classmates could not understand. Even the ones there were some that I knew were Nigerian because my movie was set in Nigeria. But even the ones that I thought were normal English in that sense, you find that it's not so normal or it's not so general. So this question calls you to actually step up your own awareness. If you're in a different culture, how do they refer to certain things? Step that up and see where there are differences and where you can, learn to communicate clearly, like she said. So language is important. It also teaches you communication skills, right? In a diverse work environment, you want to learn how to communicate certain things clearly. Culture in Nigeria, I don't know which of the speakers said it. You can be at work and they'll send you to go and buy maize. Abroad, the culture of work is different. You want to learn that. And then you want to learn the language to communicate certain things as well. And then respect, mutual respect. First of all, respect for your own culture and respect for another person's culture. You want to be confident in your culture. Don't cower down. Don't feel inferior about your culture. Don't feel like, oh, I'm from this place and this place is minority or whatever it is. No, whatever it is that sets you apart, whatever it is that is your culture, embrace it, because when you do, then you can share with others and then they can also learn that respect. Gain education as well. Listen to them, gain what exposure and education that you will gain from them, and then you can now implement it in your life. It builds your mind, it builds your capacity, it builds your exposure, it also builds your emotional intelligence. So these are also some things that will help you in such an environment.
Please, can I just add something?
Sure.
Let me just put a kingdom angle to it. Your ability to respect and understand people's cultures is a fantastic way of winning people over to Christ. I mean, I'm not going to go into details, but I had these Saudi Arabian friends. They're very uptight, normal. But I started to just tell them, do you know I can pray your prayers? They were shocked. So I started at Uzubila Imine Shaitan. They were shocked. They were like, where did you learn it? I said, I'm just interested like that. And I had the opportunity of growing up in a federal school, blah, blah, blah. And then when I speak with their parents on the phone, I'll ask them, how do I greet? They'll say, oh, assalamu alaikum. And we just started having those kinds of conversations and they relaxed. We started to have existential conversations, questions about God. They will not really show you that they're interested, but they will not show you that they're giving their lives to Christ. But you could see them becoming more and more interested in knowing about my definition of God as opposed to their own understanding of their own God. And it's something that's still ongoing. Like, I do not have an end to this story yet, but I'm just saying that part of our willingness to be interested and show, just concern or excitement about other people's culture or cultures can translate into kingdom expansion. So I just thought to add that.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Starting from a common ground is a good place to deal with cultural diversity. At the very least, we are all human beings. There is something that is human, that is general to us. My husband and I went to get something on Saturday last week. And as we're entering the store, we saw these parents with their toddlers. And the toddlers were being toddlers. I don't think I need to explain beyond that, just energy running about. And I said, last, human being a human being. What does that mean? Everybody is the same. Before we start getting aware of, oh, I'm from this country, I'm from this, there is a generality that we all have as human beings. There's always a point of common ground. If you can find that and start to engage from that place, then you can grow respectfully into the place of differences, such that even at the point where you have the common ground and you guys are having that conversation, it makes you to realize that, oh, okay, I didn't know that these people, exactly the commonality of our humanity, start from that place and then grow into the differences with respect. With respect, don't at any point, try to downplay somebody else's culture because you believe that yours is superior. And on the flip side, don't also allow them to do the same to you. And that comes from a place of conviction, especially when it comes to spiritual things. How strong is your conviction? So that when you share, even when it's different, they cannot, oppress your spiritual stance or conviction. So I'll move on to the next question now. Must my colleagues, this is the last question on the workplace, and then we'll move on to friendship. So this is even a good way to cross over because it's about your colleague and your friend. It says, must my colleagues be my friend? Or how do I navigate a relationship with people I work with? So must I become besties with everybody I work with, or how do I work with that? Pastor Oro, take that question, please.
Yeah. We've talked about diversity. I think that is a prelude to this question because you're in a diverse environment. And so generally, no, your colleague doesn't have to be your friend. You're in a professional space, you have to have a lot of professionalism. And sometimes your desire to have friends in the workplace is going to make your workplace harder for you. Your boss, first and foremost, is not your friend. Your boss is your boss. The day you decide that your boss is going to be your friend, even if they are friendly with you, you start to have problems. You start to see more of their flaws that you have no business seeing in the first place. You can have professional relationships, right? At least start at professional relationships. They don't have to be your friend. If you're lucky enough, you can make a friend from there. But generally, professionally, they do not have to be your friend. You can actually keep a cordial, understanding relationship, like they spoke to diversity. Everyone is different. Everybody is from a place. You are paying attention, like my co-speaker said, you're paying attention to even where they come from, and you are able to internalize where they come from, and share some of their, oh, that's what you do there. We have same cultural, the person living beside my house here she's from Nepal, and she's a very good friend. I realized that we actually have the same traditional values. They are family oriented, like Nigerians are. Some cultures are not actually family oriented. They are more family oriented. You can see that she had a child and the mother-in-law is around the way we would have a mugo, so you can actually find similarities in your cultures, similarities in your values. And then there are also going to be diversities. Like, you're going to have to work with people that I have 2 people in my office that are married to the same sex, or 2 or 3 people that are married to the same sex, actually married to the same sex. Young people, not old people, young people like us. And that's who their partner is. So we're in a conversation, and I say, oh, my husband and their partner, and it's the same sex. And I have to work with those people every day. I have to work with them. So I have to, oh, how are you? I have to get information from them. They are part of the team of people I work with. I don't negate the value they bring to the table because of their orientation. So, like she said, you are keeping your values to yourself, but you're keeping your values within yourself. You are also showing forth who you are and not hiding your values, like Bologi said. You understand? So you can actually have diverse people, keep professional, nice relationships, respect their diversity. Allow them respect yours by not hiding yours. Anytime you get to speak, they'll say, for office meetings, they'll say, we always start with an icebreaker. They'll say, what did you do this weekend? Someone said, I think there was a question, what's your biggest concert you've gone to? To be honest, that's when I realized that I've actually not gone to a concert, because it's in Nigeria. We used to go to worship concerts because we were talking, oh, I've gone to J5, Pink, when Pink came to Australia. I've never, I didn't realize actually that I've never been to a proper concert, honest. Like, it's on TV, but I've never been to like a Justin Bieber concert. So they were like, oh, we went out back and we toured this and you saw this and all that. And then I said the best concert I've gone to is Word and Worship Conference. So to be honestly, as in genuinely from the depth of my heart, the Word and Worship Conference that used to happen in Jos. I used to live from Lagos and I used to go to Jos for Word and Worship Conference. And they will do the word and then they will do the worship. And that was the best conference. And I was able to express that. I wasn't ashamed to express that. So as they're expressing theirs, you're expressing yours. So you don't need to actually make friends. I'm giving examples of how it can look. That's why I'm speaking to these things. Like how does it look? Like you can be speaking to them, you can share your experiences, and they're sharing their experiences, But you don't need to make friends with them. They are not your friends. My friends are people that share the same values with me. Your friends should be people that share the same values with you. Your friends, your actual friends, not the people you know. You should make friendships based on, and I don't mean to words. I'm not saying it's either or. I say your friends should be people that share the same values with you, because they are going to make or break you. Those people are journeys that you're going to take for a long time. Like we said, professional relationship the other time with your boss. It's not a long-term relationship. Your friend should be a relationship that you are looking forward to, at least having a bit of longevity with, even if it's seasonal longevity. So at least you should share the same values before you can say, oh, this particular person is my friend. So you can be friendly in a diverse environment. You can speak about your culture. You can enjoy their culture. Don't forget to speak about yours. Don't be ashamed to speak about yours. In a place where they are saying, oh, I went to a Pink concert. I said I went to a Word and Worship concert. Don't be ashamed to say, about yours. They say, what is the best quote you've heard? Because we have icebreakers and it's every week. So different questions come up. What's the best quote you've heard? My best quote is probably the scripture I studied in the morning before I went to work. And I'm not trying to be spiritual about it. It's honestly the quotes that I am reading now. Oh, what's the book you're reading now? Right? I was reading a Christian book and I said that Christian book. So I'm friendly with everyone. I'm not like my friend said, I'm not just staying in that Christian space, Christianese space, because that's not even God, that's not Jesus. Staying in that Christianese space where I am I'm not staying in that Christianese space where I'm adverse to everybody. I don't like everybody because they don't belong to the same, thing I am. Do you know that you can gain a professional knowledge from a person that is not necessarily even working in the same values as you are? You can gain professionally from a person, because experience, you can gain out of their experience. So don't shut those doors and say, oh, I'm not going to be friendly. You should focus on being righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Ghost, so that you can bring the kingdom down. So don't be the angry person that doesn't agree with everybody. You know, it's so easy to fall into that trap. Honestly, it's so easy, like, because they are saying things you don't know, and so you get defensive about them sometimes. Like, oh, I don't know this thing, and it's not how it's done where I come from. And yes, it's true. You may not think it's right, but you don't have to be that person that is always angry in the office, always in that space. You don't want to talk to everybody because they have different values than you know. You can actually be cordial, share your own ideas, share your own opinions. But what they would benefit from the most is your righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Ghost. Like, how are you joyous? How do you express God in righteousness? Like, are you cutting corners with them? Are you doing the same things that a person that lacks integrity will do? You know, your righteousness is intact. You actually bring joy into the environment. Your joy, everybody's like, oh, everybody loves you, loves to hang out with you, or at least to chat with you or just talk with you because you're easy to speak to. Joy, then peace, like as in you're actually, you know, birthing the peace of God. So you get more, you enjoy more from that place God has placed you when you focus on just being God, like not being spiritual or really sharing the Bible, but being God, like being Jesus. What would Jesus do in that situation, for instance? So I think the answer to the question is no, they don't need to be your friends, but it's good to build cordial work relationships. It's good to understand the work politics, because there's always work politics. It's good to understand work politics. It's also good not to play. It's good to not play in them, but it's also good to understand the navigations of it. It's good to understand that, okay, these people are on the same side. It's as if all the white people like each other and they are all close to the assistant boss, and all the black people is looking as if, you know, don't get involved in that. Please talk to both white, black, you know, just be a bit liberal, neutral, you know. Yes. So yes, you can have relationships without it being friendships in your workplace. And then if you're graced, lucky, and blessed, you might actually gain such good friendships from those places.
Thank you for that last point. That was what I also wanted to point out. You know, your colleagues don't have to become your friends. Don't go into the workplace expecting friendship, because when you do that, what happens is that you start to take everything personal. Oh, somebody didn't invite me for their child something. They're not your friend. They're your colleague. But every once in a while, we're blessed enough to find some people that break through that and actually become real and genuine friends to us. And under this point and friendship, I want to also point out that it's important to understand people's roles in your life. When people don't understand people's roles in their life, then they start to expect more. Why is this question important? It's important because some people are not able to function in a work team or a project because they are upset that their colleague did not do something for them or did not invite them for something. You have taken it personal because you are expecting friendship from something that's not, and it's now affecting your output and your productivity at work, you know. So it's important that, and like Oro said, when if you're not able to differentiate this thing properly, then you now start treating people a certain way, or you start expecting certain things, or you start disrespecting people, even your boss, you know, because you think that your boss is your friend. Now, let me add this before we move on to the next question. Even when you and your best friend work, even if rather you and your best friend work together, be able to separate roles, especially if one person is superior to the other at work, so that we are besties and all of that, and our friendship will show at work. However, I will not disrespect you at work because you are my guy. So we will not be in an office meeting, and because on a normal, I can tell you, see your head. Then we are in an office meeting and you are my boss. I will now tell you, see your head. No. You have to be mature enough to find that demarcation between where we are friends and where you are my boss or you are my superior. So yes, you can be friends, but no, you don't have to be friends. And I think that brings us to A very important question. Which of these two? We have two more questions on that friendship, and then we'll move to family. I'm very interested in the questions on that family, honestly, because it's very important. So please, thank you for sticking around. I'm sure you're enjoying this session. We want to do justice to the questions. That's why we're still here. So thank you to everybody that is here, both on Zoom and on YouTube. All right, so I'll move on to the next question, which flows from what I was just talking about. Um, Understanding and demarcating roles and all of that. So this question says, how do I navigate, or how do we navigate stating, setting, understanding, and respecting boundaries in friendship? So if we're friends, first of all, I guess the first question, should we have boundaries? I mean, we're friends. Do we need boundaries? You know, and then if we do, how do I set them? How do I, how do I state them? Because there are some boundaries you have in your mind, and you expect the other person to read your mind to know your boundary. How do I state them? How do I respect other people's boundaries in friendship and also in family? But yeah, how do I do that? Anybody can go first. I can see our two guests. I wanted to flip it and see if Oro can go first, but should we give you a second?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so
How do
Oro
we
can go first on
navigate
this one.
roles? Can you give me the question again?
How do we navigate? How do we handle setting boundaries? So it's about boundaries. Do we even need to have boundaries in our relationships, particularly friendships and family? If we have boundaries, do we need to state them? How do I state them? And then how do I ensure that people even respect my boundaries?
I think boundaries come from roles, like you were saying at the last conversation. Where is all your friendships are not the same. So I'll speak to friendship first. You have really, really close friends, and you have friends that are not very close with you. And I think that's where the boundaries come in. With family, if you are very close with your family, sometimes there are no boundaries like that. If you're very close with your family, right? Except you have maybe elder siblings that, desire some respect, then you understand them and know when they are joking and when they are not playing, how to speak to them when they are joking and when they are actually now in their office as an elder person, maybe giving you an advice. So there are offices and there are roles. Friendship, you have different kinds of friends. There are ones that are close with you, and there are the ones that are not close with you. You need to be able to actually know where people belong in your life. If you are able to create on a piece of paper where people belong in your life, how close you are with them and what they are. There's mentorship. You have a friend as a mentor. The friend is still a friend, but the friend is a mentor. It's not the same relationship that you have with your friend that you usually just say, how far, guy? I find it very odd when people say hey to their mentor. Why are you saying hey? It's not very sweet. I take anything. If you know me, I mentor people and I take anything. I take anything because I'm truly after the salvation of your soul. And I'm actually after your growth. So you see me take anything, but I don't think it's okay. I enjoy more the people that would say probably hello, ma. Not because I want the title, but because of the honor that comes with the honor that comes with that knowledge. So there's an honor that comes with that knowledge that the person used to say the hello, ma. It's not the hello, ma. It's an honor that comes with it. You are saying hey, it's like as in you're already talking to your friend. I'm not certain if I give you the advice that you are asking for, you will take it. Because you don't already put me in a place of bit of reverence, as it were. You get, I'm actually I'm mentoring your life. I've given some direction. At some point, you have to respect the relationship, not just respect me. I don't need it. Like I don't need it to sleep at night. But if you do not put it on it, if you don't put that respect on it, sometimes you will not have it. If you don't deliberately put it, you will not have it. I did it with my husband. I respect my husband, right? But I wanted to respect my husband, I wanted to be able to submit to my husband because personally, I'm a strong person, generally. And so I wanted to be able to deliberately, not just passively, like as in I wanted to be very deliberate about it so that I don't make mistakes. And sometimes I'll call him Mr. T. Sometimes I'll call him babe, but other times I'll call him Mr. T. And I also now saw that I liked calling him Mr. T because when I call him Mr. T, everybody else calls him Mr. T, and I just liked it. It just gives that honor to my spouse. I just liked it, you know. So sometimes I'll call him Mr. T. I'm sure he enjoys it. I'm sure it doesn't take anything from me. Exactly. You also cannot attract what you don't respect. It also doesn't take anything from you to just put a bit of respect in those relationships that require respect. To respect maybe the boundaries of those relationships that are not proper friendships. Like the person is your mentor. If the mentor is friendly, I am friendly. I can give you gist. Is how are you? I can actually tell you I'm very tired today. I just fed my daughter. I am that kind of person. I can give you gist. But that's me. Some people are not like that. Some people are very, very straight cut and straight to the point. Right? If you like them and want them to be your mentor, then you have to adhere to what they are giving you. You understand? I prefer less complicated relationships, personally. I like relationships, generally, even with my mentors. I would prefer that. But if there's a person that has a value that I would desire, and I want to enjoy from that value, it's me that is going to collect. It means that I don't have a choice but to adhere to their boundaries, and I have to defer to them. I'm the one looking for something. Think about it this way. Without you, they are going to be okay. They will have like 500 mentees. But with them, you need something. With them, you can scale up. Do you understand? But without you, like so in the relationship, you are the one benefiting from the relationship. And because you are the one benefiting from the relationship, you are the one that would stick to their boundaries. So that's when it comes to mentee-mentor relationship. When it comes to friendship, especially these days, and the way friendships are evolving, the friend you had in secondary school, that relationship is not sometimes the relationship you have with your friends that you make nowadays, like the friends that you make in your older years. It's not the same. A lot of people are busy. Life gets busier. They did not reply you because they don't love you. They are actually honestly busy, right? People now have families. People now have jobs. They are working some shifts. You know, if you have a friend abroad, they may even be working shifts. They may not be working regular, jobs. They might be working shifts where they are sleeping at one point when you are awake, they are not able to give you that same attention. What you should know in that case is the core of that relationship. If it's a very good friendship and it's been a very good friendship, don't let those small things affect the relationship. Don't let those tiny things. Make time in their time. If you have established that they are not just ghosting you or they are not deliberately leaving you behind, it's that they are just complaining about the things that they need to do. If that's the case, make time within that time. Make time within that time. Respect the boundaries they may have. A friend that used to speak to you at night before may stop speaking to you at night because they got married. That's their boundary. As we grow older, we find that things are not as clear-cut as they were before. They're not as slow as they used to be. So make friends, have an understanding of that. It preserves your friendship. I have friends that are in different countries. I have a very good friend in the UK, and we talk every day. We talk every day. I text first and say, "Are you guys up?" Not because I don't know the time zone. I'm just asking if she's up. She has 2 children, and she's currently home. So I just asked her day up based on, did she have a good night and did they sleep at night and can she talk now? And she enjoys talking to me too. So once she's up, she just calls if I'm also free. If I'm not free, I send a text and say, oh, we're just doing that. We'll call you in 2 hours. We service that relationship. Right? We service that relationship intentionally. We service that relationship. So there are going to be different navigations. There are going to be different navigations of. There are going to be different navigations of relationships that you are going to have. Understand who is your core. She's my core. Like, she's my core, so I can call her in the middle of the night. And if it's very important, if I say, I need you, like, as in, I need to talk to you now. She may be in a very busy place, and she's going to pick my call for 5 minutes, and she's going to say, oh, I'm busy, but is this something that you need to discuss right now? That's that relationship. Then there are people that you talk to once in a while. You can't have an expectation that if you call them right now, they are going to want to speak to you right now. You don't have that relationship. Relationships are built. They are built over time, and they are built on reciprocity. So there are some friendships you've had for 10 years. You've had the same friendship for 10 years. One has been more reciprocal in that relationship than the other one. You are closer to the one that's more reciprocal. They are built on, so you see how the energy the person is giving you. Like, don't be, oh, I'm always giving and giving and giving. The person is not regarding you as their top 5, and they are your top 1. Like, you're going to suffer. Go where you are loved. Go to places where you know that they are reciprocating that relationship with you, so that you can have a good and good friendship. You can have a friendship based on a lot of love, encouragement. It's not going to be like pain and suffering a lot of times. It's going to be love, encouragement. It's going to be interesting and nice. Sometimes we leave the people that love us, the people that we've been friends with for a very long time, and we seek to have friends with maybe colleagues, people that are in our current season. And that season is going to pass. Those seasons are not necessary. You are seeking to have that kind of strong bond with somebody that is in a passing season. There are friendships that come from having a child. Your child's friend in school becomes your friend. Now you have to access if that friend is actually your friend. Because to be honest, what brought you together is your child. So it may not, you can actually have a very healthy friendship on the basis of respect, and both your children are friends. And you guys don't necessarily have to invest in. The person might have their own circle. So those expectations, like as in sit down, analyze the relationship in your mind, and see where it is going based on the person's reciprocity. People that love you make time for you. If the relationship is just kicking off, give it time before you judge it. After giving it some time, you see the reciprocity of that relationship and know where to put it. Also, always give things time. We're fast. Like when we're friends in secondary school, we just meet a person and then you have matching stuff, and then you guys become friends and you're friends forever. And that was so good. It's not like that anymore. Good things these days take time. You need to study the person, understand the person, learn the person. Don't give too much too early, especially in these our older time relationships. Don't give too much too early. Understand your mentor, understand your friend, understand the person, how the person rolls. You get build into that relationship. Don't be fast to fall into love with people, and they fall out of love when it doesn't work, and then you are broken. Honestly, nobody sent you that. Like, you battered yourself. So understand place in people's lives. Understand the boundaries that they hold. And then that understanding will give you a more healthy relationship. I think that's me.
Thank you so much. I think Chichi will come back to us if she wants to. But I will just touch on that question and then we can move on. Oro actually spoke into the next question, which I will still ask so that we can speak specifically to it. But when it comes to boundaries, when it comes to your own boundaries, first of all, do you even know your boundaries? A lot of us are not even self-aware. You are just living life of vibes. You don't even know what you will take and what you shouldn't take. Oro said she was clear, she did not mince words when she says, if you are her mentee and you message her, hey, she's going to answer you. But this is what she preferred. Do you know what your own boundaries are? Do you know what you will take and what you will not take? As much as she will answer you, hey, there's probably something that you would message her with and she will call you to order and say, don't refer to me like that. There are certain names that you will not call me. So some of us need to, first of all, even understand ourselves, understand our boundaries, and then communicate that. One of the first ways to communicate that, especially, is respect in a relationship. Respect in a relationship. And if you find that somebody is then maybe stepping on a boundary you have, like she said, some people, once they get married, they don't respond to chats at certain times of the night, especially maybe with the opposite sex or even generally. Now, if you find a friend, especially somebody that you guys used to chat a lot into the night, and the person wants to continue with that same energy, it is not out of place for you to, maybe in the morning where you respond and say, oh, hi, good morning. Sorry, I don't respond to messages past this time again. And I believe that in friendships, we should be mature enough to hold mature conversations and not get easily offended by certain things, you know. So what is your boundary? Number one, do a self-assessment and know what your boundaries are. Number two, learn to communicate it clearly and respectfully. Not from a high and mighty, oh, you know, now I'm now married. Like, okay, so for example, the friend you're talking to, let's even say you are the same sex, but the person is single. Then you come up and say, oh, you know, right now I don't respond to messages at this time again. You know, I'm now married. There are certain things I can't do as a married woman. You know, my husband will want my attention. You just go on and on. That is not very sensitive, you know. So be able to communicate clearly and respectfully your boundaries. Number three, sometimes you have to, I'm finding the word to put it, ensure tactically or strategically that people respect your boundaries, especially certain important boundaries. So, for example, you have a boundary to say, I don't want you to disrespect my husband. And you have a friend that wants to consistently do certain things or refer to your spouse in a way that is disrespectful. You're going to need to sometimes call them to order and say, look, babe, I do not like the way you refer to my husband in this and this and this manner. And I would appreciate it if you can be more respectful to how you call him or whatever it is or blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you have to do that. On the flip side, people also have their own boundaries, and you should also respect that. One of the ways to know people's boundaries is what they continuously do. So if you are on the receiving side of a friend you used to chat at night and suddenly they don't reply to you at night anymore, that is a boundary they are starting to set, and you want to respect that. Sometimes people will communicate it. You need to listen and take it seriously. Don't say, oh, it's just jokes. So these are some things when it comes to boundaries. But personally, with your boundaries, you want to sit down. Some of you want to sit down after this call to say, okay, what are even my boundaries in friendship? What are my boundaries with my colleagues? What are my boundaries in family? You know, and speaking to what Oro was saying about different offices, you know, you can be your friend's friend, and then if you're also maybe their boss or something, there is a boundary that now comes in place, and it's on you to know it and to respect it. And sometimes it's necessary to verbalize it. All right. Moving on to the next one. Moving on to the next one is long distance friendship, particularly friendship. We did not get long distance relationship. I thought you only got one romantic question because everybody wants to do other relationships well. So the question is, how do I properly maintain friendship over distance? This person says, I don't do badly, but I'm more of a let's sit down and gist. Let me see you face to face. Let's go on a date. But now there is a lot of distance in some of my close friendships with people relocating and all of that right now. And I must even give this to the two guests that are here. Let me say this before we go further. I don't take that your presence here for granted. Mrs. Adindu is at work and has used her break time, all of her break time, to do this with us, you know. Erhirhie is in Australia, is like very early. I think by the time she joined, it was like 5 a.m. or even earlier, if I'm not wrong. And as you can see, she has a baby. These are some of the benefits of friendships that have been cultivated properly, even across distance. So how do we navigate or cultivate or service our friendships when they are long distance to ensure that we don't lose out on quality friendships just because of, change of location? Chichi, I'd like you to go first.
Thank you for the opportunity again. And please permit me to just add something to what was said earlier on about boundaries. And I like that you started by asking, how much of yourself do you know? I know we're speaking about boundaries, but I just wanted to say, first of all, spend time studying yourself. I'm very big on self-awareness. Half of these conversations we're having will be easier if you understood yourself. I like how Pastor Oro talked about having friends that have similar values. Well, how do you know who has similar values if you're not aware of your own values? Please pay attention to yourself. But what I really wanted to add to boundaries is insist. Whether it's in relationship, marriage, friendship, consistently insist to say, I talked about that thing. Can you remember that thing I talked about? Oh, can you remember that time I said XYZ? Like, be patient with the process, be patient with your relationships. I'm saying this because we're consistently in a culture that cancels easily. You're quick to cut people off and move on and just, keep it moving. It doesn't always work. Be patient with the process, insist on how you want to be treated, and keep at it, like keep reiterating it, except you now get to a point where you're like, I think this person is just blatantly ignoring me and I don't think it's going to work. But if there is potential in your friendships, don't be in a hurry to cancel it. Moving over to long distance relationship, very hard. Some people say I don't thrive well with long distance. I used to think I was one of those people until life showed me that sometimes long distance is all you have and you have to make the best use of it, right? Long distance. They're very hard. Okay, I've already said that. Oh, they're very, very hard. But I would say that communication is to every relationship what blood is to the body. That for me is my number one tip. You must communicate. And I'm not just saying call, I'm saying chat, I'm talking about the quality of your conversations. I'm saying the intentionality that goes into those kinds of communications. I'm saying prioritizing those kinds of conversations with your friends or with your partner or with your, I don't know, if a relationship is important to you, my point is you have to be intentional about communicating. And I'm not just saying talking, I'm saying the quality of the talk. So if you are a bad person at talking for 1 minute, you want your spirit, soul, and body to be in it for that 1 minute, right? So that the person feels you. Long distance relationship hits me different, and that's why it looks like I'm just sign and sign and sign. It's just a lot of work. Relationships generally, whether the person is living in the same house with you or across the streets, take a lot of effort. But when it's long distance, I feel like it's twice or three times, what's the effort. But number one, communicate. Number two, I will say have a system and structure. On communication, let me also say that sometimes you can have friendships where you guys don't speak to each other every time. And it's normal. And I'm saying this because don't be in the habit of guilt tripping people and saying, oh, today you remembered me. Eh? Don't be that kind of friend, please. Like, life is happening. And Pastor Oro also said, we're getting busy. I'm having children. I'm at work. There's time difference. Like, a lot is happening. So don't get into that space where you're consistently guilt tripping people. And it takes two to remember. Like, if someone is remembering or forgetting, and you're remembering, call. And one of the things I've also known that's helped me over a period of time with my friends is to let them know how I feel about them. I speak with a friend for a long, as I don't speak with a friend for a long time, when we speak and we catch up, I tell her, I love you, or him. Like friendship, and relationship. Him is my husband. But friendship, you know what I'm saying? I let my friends know, like I just keep reiterating how I feel about them. And we get into those kinds of spaces where we're like, we might not share of, have these kinds of deep or catching up moments, but I really appreciate it when we do. Do you see? And while you might not have that time where you have like extended conversations, once in a while, a chat, checking up on their status, saying what's up, seeing what's happening in their lives on Instagram. For me, those are ways people know that you're in their minds. And pray for your friends. I don't know if that's part of keeping your long distance relationship, but pray for them. I've noticed that the more you pray for people and things, the more God begins to show you things about those kinds of people. So you can just be praying and then God tells you, check up on this person or give this person this word. And it's always so key. It adds to the quality of your relationship. It's refreshing. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, right? It hits differently when someone calls you and says, oh, I had a dream. I prayed about it. Or I feel like God is showing me this about you. Don't sleep on your vision and all of that. So not every time gossip, some days deep stuff too. Like put your friends in prayer so that you can be receiving deep stuff and to be affecting the kind of relationships you're having. I wrote there should be an end in mind, but that's because I was trying to balance friendship and relationship. So if you're in a long distance relationship, you guys don't want to be doing it ad infinitum. In other words, you don't want to be doing it forever and ever. You want to make sure that you're working towards an end. My Igbo people will say, "Agu wearing chekube," hunger that is seeing pot boiling, has hope. It's not the hunger that kills, right? So if you know that you're working towards something, then you're able to endure a lot of the hardship that comes with long distance, if it's a situation that has to come to an end. Otherwise, if it's a relationship that is long distance indefinitely, I think you just need to accept that faith and begin to be intentional about the little time you guys have together. So just by way of reiterating, communicate. And I said inside communication is the quality of your communication, is the intentionality you put into the communication, is the priority. Priority means every time it's time, or if you guys have a system and structure that allows you guys to meet maybe once on Saturdays, prioritize it. Let the person know that you're shifting heaven and earth to have that meeting with them, right? Take it seriously. Yeah, I think that's about it from my end.
Thank you. Or you're muted.
Okay, for context, long distance relationships, we're referring to friendships. Bologi, right?
Sorry?
We're referring to long distance friendships or just
Yes,
general
friendship,
relationships.
but feel free to drop a thing or two about romantic. The question that came particularly was friendship, but feel free to drop one or two on romantic.
I think long distance relationships are very possible because currently the closest people to me are long distance. The closest friends to me are long distance. They are not one, they are not two. The closest people generally in my life are long distance. Of course, I my husband and my baby. So I believe first that it's possible with both parties being deliberate. So I understand your frustration. A lot of people are moving and your relationships, maybe your closest relationships are now your closest relationships are now long distance. So I get the frustration. It can be very frustrating, but it's possible. But you need to understand first where you stand in people's lives. I don't commit to anything that does not add value to my life or anything that I don't believe God is asking me to do. Because some things will not add value necessarily, but God's asking you to do them. Understand which relationship is worth keeping. Because that's going to determine the effort you put into the relationship. Because I remember when I was in a long distance marriage with my spouse, it was a relationship worth keeping. We were apart for a bit, for a long time. And I would stay up at night to meet up with Australian time. And we would usually even just sleep almost 3 months. And God will have it. What the kind of work I was doing at that time allowed me to have that liberty of time.
the work I was having at that time, I'm sorry, so that she does not destroy something while I'm not looking. The work I was having at that time allowed me to have that liberty of time. And so I had the liberty of time to talk to him. It was an important relationship, so I could give up my sleep. If you know where people stand in your life, you are able to. It was a new marriage. We needed to both commit to it. So he could also give up his sleep. You understand? And we had times when he would chat, at break times at work. So I knew his break time, he knew my time. We had each other's itinerary down to the teeth. So both of us are working on it. And because we both committed to working on it, it worked out. When you have just you trying to make the relationship work, that's when you start to feel very frustrated. So understand the relationship. Is it a very close one? Like, are you forcing it? Okay, so let's give the assumption that you are not forcing it. That this is a relationship where both of you have mutual understanding. Let's say a friendship, for instance. The person is also busy. The person is also on a time zone, right? But both of you are committed to that relationship, right? Then that's where understanding their new lifestyle comes into play. When you're gisting, don't just gist about random things. Try to understand their life. Be a part of their life. You cannot be a friend with a person in their new journey without being a part of their journey. I understand what it is. Like, I try to do video calls. I'm getting a little cranky. I try to do video calls so that I understand the life. Like, for instance, I'll just give the UK, for instance. I understand basic things, like at least the basic things. I know where, I understand when she says I'm going from my room to my parlor, because I've done a video call to understand the room to the parlor. I have an idea of the distance. I have visuals of the distance. So I'm not, give me a minute, I'll just pick up. Or she's cutting the call, my husband is calling. I'm cutting the call, my husband just came in. So he just came from work. She understands by what I just said that my husband left for work for a very long time. He's probably not going to be at home for a long time. I just said my husband just came back. She understands by that, because she knows me and knows my marriage, that my husband just came back. He's probably not going to be around for a very long time. He's probably not going to be around for a very long time. And I need to spend time with him. So I can't be on that call, because we can take this call. We can take our call later after my husband leaves. But I cannot, I need to maybe spend time with him, spend time with the baby, do some food and all that. Instant understanding. Once you commit to something, both of you understand where each other are. Like, you understand where you say, okay, my boss is coming. So my sister now, our co-speaker, she's at work. So Bologi understands she's at work. Right? She understands she's at work. So she understands that, okay, the break time is from this. She would have asked, so when is the break time? Is from this time to this time? I can give a few hours. She can say, oh, I can still talk, but I may not be too active. She has given you an understanding of where her current situation is. Once a person gives you an understanding of the current situation, and they're being genuine, and they're trying to commit, so they're telling you, so you're saying, you don't have to call me again. And they say to you, it has gotten busy. My friend, ask what the busy is. Like, be conscientious, remove emotions. Try to be there for them. I'm trying to eat pizza back in the day. Life has changed, friend. It has changed, though. So try to be there with them. Try to be present. Oh, you're very busy. What are you doing? I have to get this and that and that. So the next time they call, you're going to ask, have you gotten this and that? Follow their process. I have all my siblings are long distance relationship, and I'm the eldest. And I try to keep up with their life. I know one is trying to do his driving license. I know the other one is doing his thesis. I know one is about to finish and then he's going to move in with the other. I have an idea of their general itinerary. I have an idea, one wants to move out at some point, they want to move out. I'm part of that process for them. If they are your good friend, if they are your actually good friend, and you want to keep that very good relationship, be a part of their process. They are going through things, they are going through their own life journey. Yeah, it's like, so they didn't go for vacation. So don't imagine that they are enjoying. Sometimes that burger, for instance, I don't eat burger. So if somebody just thinks that I'm abroad eating burger, I eat junk food. So the thing you think I'm doing is not what I'm doing. I'm probably cooking in my house most of the time. Like, so understand their life. You just think, oh, they're enjoying. Oh, you're earning so much, oh, but they're also paying bills. They're earning so much, so you feel like your friend maybe should give you something because they began to earn so much. Did you ask them their bills? Did you ask them their house rent? So they are leading a different life from you, right? And sometimes it's not to spite you, it's honestly, genuinely that they are in a different space, a different world that they are getting used to. It's difficult for them often, to be honest, more difficult for them than you, because they are the ones transitioning. Your only problem is that you are transitioning to being their long distance friend. That's your own challenge. They are transitioning into a new culture, a new workplace, getting IDs, getting settled, it's so different out of the country. You have to have mercy and try to be understanding of their situation. Try to be understanding of their current circumstance. Be that understanding friend. See, once you are that understanding friend, not understanding based on they just treat you anyhow and then you stay. No, that's not what I'm saying. When you are there present in their life, I'm telling you, they will defer to you because they need someone to journey with you. They need someone to shoulder on with as well. They will defer to you. Now, some people are not very good with communicating. So my sister had been saying that any relationship that works needs communication. Some people are not very good with communicating, right? And to be honest, some friendships are going to die. Some friendships are going to die in that long distance. You need to know the one to service. Like, don't just cut off. Like you said, some friendships have potential. So don't just cut off, right? Study the relationship, give in your all, give in your understanding, give in your best, and see where it's going. As it is going, if you see that the energy is not being returned, you can take the back seat a bit as well. Like they've taken the back seat with you. They have other friends now. Take a little bit of the back seat too and focus on your other friendships that actually are giving the same energy. It would hurt. Maybe they were the best for you. They were the most person you liked, but maybe they are not good at the long distance thing. Maybe their life has gotten overrun. Maybe they needed other people in that season that are not you. It's even possible you'll be better closer later when you begin to have their understanding. It happens between singles and married. When you're single and your friend gets married, it's not that people want to cut off their single friends. You get into another different season. If the single friend is not understanding of the season, it will be hard. But I've transitioned with a friend. I was very, very single, and she had a child. And I was able to, I didn't do a perfect job because I realized when I now got pregnant and had my own baby that I didn't do a perfect job. But I did enough for us to still remain friends in that transition season. I realized that I even took some things for granted, but I tried my best to actually also be understanding of her season. Until today, we're still friends. It's very, very wonderful to be understanding of people's season, especially when they're not lying to you. They are being honest. I have a friend here just yesterday. She sent me her itinerary. She sent me her roster because I've been saying, for like 3 times, I've said, are you at home? Are you at home? Are you at home? Right? Because we're building a friendship, she sends me her roster. She said, I now laughed. She said, yes, now, so that you know when I'm at home, so you can come. Do you understand? She wants you to work. I want you to work. I'm asking, I'm trying to see, like, when can we see? Right? So she wants you to work. She says, I'm at home by this time. Sometimes I pick shift on these days. Sometimes I don't. So the day she doesn't pick shift, she's at home on these days. So I have an idea. So it's in that chat now. So I have it. Do you get? I don't need to ask, are you at home? I can even literally just land in her house on Friday afternoon because I know she's not working. But she's committing. You see that small commitment? She didn't, because I said, are you at home like 3 times? And she didn't like turn me off. So I'm now, friendship is very reciprocal. So I can make that effort because I'm home currently because I'm on leave. So I'm a bit more flexible than she is right now. You get? But that same friend, when Kayla is sleeping, because it's not easy for her to sleep off. Now she's feeling really sleepy. It's not easy for her to sleep off. When she's sleeping, if you call me and you are my friend, I'll tell you. If you are not my friend like that, I won't explain. Maybe I'll just not pick. I'll call later. But if you're my friend, I will say, Kayla, I'm putting Kayla to bed. You understand what I mean? And if you've had a child, you understand that putting to bed at this age can take a bit. They don't want to sleep, but they want to sleep. So they are fighting sleep. So you take a bit extra efforts to do that. So if you're my friend, you understand what I mean by I need to put this girl to sleep. Do you understand? So you are trying to be present. It's different. This wasn't the conversation I was having 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was having more ministry conversations, right? This year, I'm having more friendship conversations. So I have minister friends, even guys that I've had to try to bring into my season. Do you understand? To keep the relationship going, I've tried to get them into the season. I'm like, I don't have as much time as I used to before. You want to ruin our video? Mm-hmm. I don't have. Sorry. Last time.
Well done, Mama.
Hey.
Thank you.
I'll soon go.
It's okay. I think we just have
So yeah.
one note.
So you can yes. You can just try to just be understanding. I think the summary is try to be understanding. Try to be understanding of the season. Put yourself in their shoes. And as far as they are doing some work, like they are making some effort, sometimes you may not talk till Saturday. And if that is what they have, considering they have a new journey, that's okay. Geez, enjoy yourself. Enjoy the relationship. Understand that God has not left you to. Believe me, where you are, there are also people that may not be your best friends, but you can go out with and have that experience you want. You see the experience you say you like to go out and just. So the person that you have in Nigeria, for instance, may not be your best friend that is in the UK, but may be okay for you to go and take a movie. Enjoy that one too. Do you understand? So make your life work for you. Don't sit down waiting for people. Do you get? Make your own journey, your life journey interesting for you. I have one friend they have in the UK, Bologi is in Canada. You have different friendships. You have different areas. There are friends that you talk more ministry. There are friends that you talk more gist, more children, Try to enjoy yourself with relationships.
Thank you so much. Yes, I know we've extended, but we're just doing justice to the questions that have come in. I apologize. I don't think we'll be able to take any questions from the participants. So please, we apologize because of the time. Chichi has to go off in like 2 minutes. So I will just give her the floor to say anything to us on family relationship, especially navigating, when there can be conflicts or when you are all strong-headed, just whatever you want to speak to family relationships. And then we'll come back and wrap up with the last one. Thank you.
Well done, everybody, for your time and just being here as long as you have. With family relationship, I'll say it's hard because you didn't choose them. You just can't walk out of family sometimes, But with family relationship and dynamics and your expectations, I can't remember the exact questions, but I remember that the person was saying, do you have to have like a very fantastic, or is it okay to give up on having like a fantastic relationship, especially if you feel you're being misunderstood? And it's not totally unrelatable. It's not totally, you're not alone, right? And there are times in families like that where you just, especially if you're evolving. And for me, I would say that I've had those kinds of heated conversations or falling out with family when I started to know a lot about myself. I started to insist on certain kinds of things. And so it's bound to happen, especially in family. But what I have learned over the years, I'll share 3 things just before I leave. Number 1, your expectations are valid. If there is a way you want to be treated or just a view you've held, let me give an example. When I was growing up, I had a very weird relationship with my younger brother because he was the last born. I'm number 4, he's number 5. The people before us are like way, way older than us. But somehow between me and him, because we grew up together, the other ones were just always out of the house. I just found that I was receiving the brunt of, I was like a firstborn. He was like the one that would get away with a lot of things. And they would tell me, he's your brother, just go and do, just go and do. And I was like, give us assignment, he will lose. We'll not find him again. Then they'll just say, just go and do. And the more I tried, I noticed that as a child, I really wanted to explain how I felt. And I don't think I was given as much opportunity as I'm now aware I needed at the time. And so I became a very angry child. And so I'm consistently now evolving to a space. And, then it used to be like I was nagging, like I kept saying the same thing over and over again. And they were not hearing me, right? And so as I'm growing older and I'm reflecting on my childhood, I'm now learning that, first of all, I hate to repeat myself now because it's just a trigger in my head. But I'm consistently having to reintroduce myself to my family to say, when I say this, this is what I mean, right? And I don't want to have to be put in a position consistently to look like you're not listening to me. So I'm demanding that people pay attention more to what I'm saying. And because I've been this child who was just made to, oh, it's okay, you're the elder one, go and sit down, and I'll sit down. I'm not getting into spaces where I'm like, no, I'm not going to sit down until someone listens to me. And sometimes it gets really hard. Like there's friction. So number one, I would say mourn. Your expectations are valid. Like if there is something you're wanting to happen concerning your family relationships, please don't say, maybe my own is too much, maybe my expectations are unrealistic, except they're unrealistic. But if they're not unrealistic, keep them, they're valid. Number two, mourn your expectations. Mourn your reality. Mourn your expectations. What do I mean? If you are going into your family relationship expecting certain things and it's not happening, maybe it just wouldn't happen in that family. And it's such a hard reality, and that's exactly where I am. Is that, oh, I wish my dad was like this, or I wish my mom was like this, or I wish my brother and my sister. You're going to have to monitor at some point to say, maybe, just maybe, it might never happen. But this is the version of my parents that I have, and this is the version of my siblings that I have. And I'm going to learn to adjust my expectations and my mindset to see how I can live with the beautiful things about them as it concerns my relationship with them. Number three, accept status quo, but keep your expectations alive. Why am I saying that? Sometimes where you think that understanding, for the person who asked and said, it looks like the person is always being misunderstood, it might not be in family that you get that sense of, being seen and being accepted. So keep your expectations alive and just know that it might not just happen in this family. And I'm saying this categorically because I found myself in spaces where the things I desire the most, the kinds of attention and affection or whatever I needed from a certain person in my life, I'm now finding it in other kinds of relationships. I remember when Bologi and I were talking one time last year, and she shared a scripture with me that has continued to resonate in my spirit and bless me continuously. He places the solitary in families. God places the solitary in families. Sometimes it's not the people who are lonely. It's not the people who are forgotten. Sometimes your solitary can be a season where you're just alone, where you just feel like, I just don't feel like there's anybody that gets me in this season. I feel like I'm alone. That can be a sense of solitary. And God can actually place you in a family, whether temporarily or permanently, and then they feed you. They feed you in just those areas where you're lacking, those areas where you're deficient. And it's amazing. See, when God places you in those kinds of places, it hits differently. With family, we have expectations, but when God places you in these places, they love you effortlessly. They love you for just existing, for just waking up and breathing. It's a whole kind of love entirely. So my point is, your expectations are valid. Mourn the reality. Like don't drag down your whole family relationship because of some unmet expectations. There is more to your family than one or two things or three things or 10 things that are not working, right? But keep your expectations alive enough and pray about them and see where God will lead you. Because I feel like if you have those expectations, probably God put them in your heart for a reason, and you're supposed to enjoy it. So don't give up on your expectations. Yeah, that's like my summary. And after this, I'm going to have to go, but I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much, Pastor Oro, for spewing a lot of wisdom. Thank you for everybody who came. If there are any questions, I'm sure Ms. Bologi will find a way to get it across to me one way or another. But I thoroughly appreciate you guys. I'm going to have to leave now.
Thank you so much. I would thank you properly in person. But thank you so much for that. Thank you for the answer you gave. Before we move on to the last question I have, I wanted to say something about long distance friendship. I think the answers that they gave were very, very helpful. I just want to say three things or re-emphasize three things. Number one, grace. Learn to give grace to your friends that are long distance. It was already explained, so I will not go into detail. Everybody is going through life. Don't have this entitled. In friendship, there is entitlement, but don't be so over entitled that you're easily offended. Learn to give grace. Number two, part of intentionality I can give you something you can do. You can try to do certain kinds of activities together. It might not be every day. It might be every week, every month, something like that. That can also help to service the friendship. And it doesn't have to be a big activity. It depends on what it is. One of the things, for example, that helps Chichi and I's friendship, even with distance, was that for a period, we were praying together every morning. Now, I think it was my 8 o'clock, it was her 5 o'clock, because there was still time difference, even though we're both in the US at the time. That thing made us commit to each other intentionally because we knew that, oh, we're praying together. Or there's a book that I'm reading right now, which came from a conversation Oro and I were having. We're just having a conversation, and she mentioned this book by Lois Evans. And on that call, I ordered it. The next day, it was here, you know. So we can now have a conversation about that book. That is, it might not be a scheduled thing, but that is something that we now have together. We've read the book together. We're in a somewhat similar season. We can talk about it. So if you can intentionally create those kinds of activities or things that you can do with yourselves, it will also service the relationship. Number 3, understand urgency in relationships. Now, you may not be able to talk every day with your closest friends, but 2 things. For them, there are times when you can sense that your friend needs to talk to you. There are certain things that your friends will say right now. The next thing is that you need to call them. You need to call them and pray with them. You need to call them and encourage them. You need to see their face. They need a video call. There are some kinds of I'm fine that you hear over the phone. You want to see their face. And on your own end, know what seasons of urgency to let them know. Don't abuse urgency. I have certain friends right now that if I pick up the phone and I cry to them in this Canada, they will drive hours to meet me. I don't have any doubt about it. There are certain friends like that with me here. I'm not supposed to abuse that urgency, that gift of urgency, if I will call it like that. So in long distance friendships, there are times of urgency where you need to drop everything as much as possible and give a dedicated time to your friend. Sometimes it might mean telling my husband, babe, please, I need to talk to this person right now. You know, sometimes it might, whatever it is. But on my own end also, I should not use those moments too much and abuse them. I know that I have this friend that she will always drop everything and call me. So for every little thing, you are creating a mountain out of a molehill to get that reaction. That's wrong. So you don't abuse the intentionality of your friend. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't abuse the reciprocity. You don't abuse the privilege that you get from that friendship. Make sure you use it. So as much as we can just random conversations, let's also make sure that we're servicing ourselves with quality conversations, and in real times of urgency, we can do that. Pastor Oro, I know you're not on video, but if you can just chat up, if you can take this last question on family right now. If not, I would answer the one on romantic relationship, and then you take that other one last. Let me know what works for you, please.
Okay, I think I want to
Thank
take the
you
one
so
on
much.
family.
Okay. All right. So let me just ask
Okay,
that.
I'm not on video, guys. I'm sorry about that. I needed to go
That's
off.
okay. That's okay. Thank you so much for this time. So the question says that my family is comprised of, and please, can I just say that I really admire the way Oro and her siblings are. I think they're on this call, some of them. I saw their names. She has really exemplified like a firstborn in bringing them together from what I see. And it's very, very, for me, it's an encouragement that it can happen. So for everybody that feels a certain type of way about their family, it is possible to have that kind of relationship. You may not have it with all your siblings, you may have it with all your siblings, or you may also have it with one, and that's also okay. All right, no pressure that this is how this person's own is. My own must be exactly like that. It doesn't work like that way. All right. My family is comprised of such strongly different personalities And I think everyone wants things done their way. And none of these ways are obviously wrong. So is there any wisdom for navigating this? We are all different, want to do things differently. How can we navigate it, especially when you can't say, okay, that person is wrong and this person is right? What do we do?
I think as regards family, God raises a Joseph in families. The Joseph doesn't necessarily need to be the oldest child. It just has to be the person with more wisdom in every situation. For families to work, a Joseph must exist to bring that order. At some point in family life, you find that parents take the back seat. I don't encourage it, but I see that that's what happens. I don't like it. I feel like parents should still be parents, to an extent, even in just a bit, just be a bit present. But most times, it's exhausting to be a parent. You start when the child is 0 years old, and at least by the time they are 40, 30, 20, you expect that they should know what they are doing. Right? So I understand why parents take a backseat, but you find that it's now the siblings that are now in charge, maybe the oldest siblings, right? And sometimes they lack leadership skills. It wasn't given to them. Perhaps their parents didn't exemplify it, and they've not seen it in any place being exemplified. So it becomes difficult. And with the lack of God in God in families, where maybe some know God, others don't know God, there can be such clashes. But Joseph had wisdom. That was one of the foremost things that he had. He had wisdom. And so there's no one, to answer your question, there's no one size fits all for all your situations. But for this present, perhaps dispute, how about you ask God, pray about it, and see how you can not stand in on anybody's side, but perhaps try to bring some form of direction. Do you know that you can bring direction through submission? Women can do this with their husbands. You don't actually need to be the leader to actually bring. You can say, I'll suggest something, but I'm just suggesting. You don't have to take it. It doesn't have to, okay. I feel like, brother, this person is trying to think, and I think sister, this person is trying to think, maybe there's a way we can just do this and that, and then maybe it might work. So you're certain of what you're saying, but the tone of voice you're using to say, perhaps if you are the younger child, it's a bit respectful, it's a bit, unbiased, it's a bit like understanding. You may be able to appeal to their to both sides. You may be able to appeal to both sides. If you continue to be that person, because once you pick a side in a family that is very highly opinionated, once you pick a person's side, even though you agree with them, you're not helping the situation. You're not helping the situation once you pick a side. You actually have to stay unbiased. If you want to create change in your family, you actually have to be the person that is able to see this person's personality and see why, based on their personality, their position, and where they are at that moment, why they are coming from that place. Like we said at the beginning, you need to stay in the place of love, the place of God. It's not necessarily that they are right, but you can see why they are doing it or they are saying that. You can actually even see that maybe they are just being selfish. Like, it doesn't have to be a good thing. You can see, okay, this person is just a selfish person. The person is just being selfish. And because it's near the person's house, that's why this person is making the suggestion. And then this other person, you can see that maybe they have a better idea. Or you can even see that this person does not like this person. So this person's idea is to antagonize the other person. Like, you can see. So it's not like I'm saying when you see it, you see all the good things. You see it, you see the mess, right? And because you know that this conversation has gone beyond family conversation to individual hurt. Sometimes you see that they are not even arguing. One person is just trying to show that I'm older, and the other person is just trying to show that I'm smarter. like the issues, So once you're able to see like why they are saying these things, right? You can now, by the wisdom of God, know what to say or who to go meet. You can go behind the back and go and talk to mommy if mommy is usually the person that brings them to order. You can align with sister that maybe the sister is maybe the older, is maybe closer to their age, and say, but sister, you see that this and that and that. Can you see this? And that sister will be the one to talk, not you. What is your goal in that relationship? Your goal is to bring outcomes, right? Like your goal is not to look like the person that brought the solution. You don't want to look like the wisest person. You're not part of that. You want your family to go forward. So what is your goal? You want your family to move forward. You want to have better communication. You want more peace, right? So what achieves that more peace? Is it going to speak to your mom? Is it going to speak to your sister? Is it you speaking by yourself? What is the wisdom of God for that particular issue? What is the wisdom of God for that particular situation? There's nothing impossible for God. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Like Bologi said, you may not have, it was my sister Chi that said, you may not have the very close relationship with your family. You may not have it. You might find it outside, to be honest. The family was the original place where, in fact, I believe very strongly that Christ restored the church in place of where the family was supposed to be. Right? Let me explain. In the beginning, it was Adam and Eve, and they were supposed to birth the life of God through generations. God tried to use Abraham. So it was the fall of man that made that in the New Testament, when Christ came, he didn't come with family anymore. He now say, it's as if people are all moving mad. It's almost like it doesn't really work so well in just family. So I'm going to create a family of God. So let family now be the church. So Christ introduces discipleship, not on basis of blood, but on basis of same love of God. But if it had gone well with Adam and Eve, it will have been family. Like if it will have been family, it will have been all of us in different families, and the family will be a place for discipleship. Do you understand? Your father will not be the one but it doesn't work that way. But that's what it's supposed to be. So just because God restores it in the church does not mean that it's not supposed to exist in family. So I feel like the first place God wants that discipleship to even be, that leadership, that order to be in our family. But most times we don't get it there. Then we get, because it puts the searching family, it puts the lonely family. Then we get it in church circles. We get it in other places. And I love that she said that, because sometimes if you have a working family, you forget that. You may not always get that love you're looking for in that moment from your family. You have to be able to be patient to see God work in your family, right? But through that time, you're going to get it somewhere else. You're going to find it somewhere else. And that somewhere else, mostly God brings it through the body. He brings it through the body. He brings it through the body. He brings it through people that know God. Then I think the last thing I want to add is, so a lot of people see my family and like, oh, they are really good and all that. But I think the thing that really brought us together, yes, from when I was younger, I saw that a lot of relationships with my father's people and my mother's people, they didn't have very good relationships with their siblings like that I desired. And when I went into the world, I saw that if you go into the world and you have friends, as a young child, I saw that you have friends. You can't really count on your friends like that. I realized that family is really important. And as I began to know God, I realized family is important. So I began to put things in place to be closer to my siblings. I began to be more long suffering, more patient. And, it's been a very long journey and we're still on that journey. So we have a good relationship. But I think the thing that really helped us build family is God. Everyone knows God. It was the knowledge of God that I learned, that by the grace of God, I was able to bring that stewarded my family, so that now I don't have to do much. They are learning God. And as they learn God, they are learning to be patient. They are learning to be kind. Like, I don't have to be there working anybody's life. So sometimes if you can give, and not forcefully, if you can give God to people, like you don't need to now micromanage them. How do you give God to people? It's not by being annoying and staying in your room and reading the Bible, right? You see that wisdom you are going to use to speak to your family now. You are going to realize that there's something in this girl. She's becoming wise, right? If you sit with God and sit with his wisdom, and every time there's a family matter, if you sit with God and you sit with him, and he gives you his wisdom, and he gives you his wisdom, you're going to realize that they are going to start to realize, and as you begin to know yourself in Christ, they are going to realize that, oh, this person actually speaks with wisdom. I was telling someone today, I said, I believe that the reason why people misunderstand people, and it's not a general note. It's not a general note. The reason why we're often misunderstood, to be honest, is because we don't know ourselves. Most times. Your family starts to understand you, or people around you start to understand you when you begin to understand yourself. You'll find that you were not able to express yourself, express what you wanted, express your boundaries, express yourself. And in those years that you did not necessarily know yourself very much, you found it challenging to really express who you were. And in those years, you felt misunderstood. So once you begin to know yourself in God, you are able to be bold, strong, speak out, you're able to be confident, you're able to have value, vision that people see, that naturally earns their respect. So I tell people that as children, we throw tantrums. When you don't know, when you're not mature, you throw tantrums and you just become unruly. And you think that's going to get somebody's attention. It's not. As you begin to know yourself, and as you begin to get wise in God, you have knowledge in God, you begin to have value. It's going to shock everybody. Like, if you've been in a place where maybe you're a younger one and you're not appreciated before, the time when you start to be appreciated is when you start to bring value. Most people respect their younger ones based on value. My younger side is intelligence. They think you have sense. They think there's something you bring to the table. When you don't know yourself and you're always throwing tantrums and you're always getting angry for things that you can actually internalize, sit down, and actually communicate properly, they're not going to put value in the words that you're saying. So most times you're saying people are misunderstanding you, but I'm telling you, you have not begun to understand yourself. There's a personal government and personal leadership you need to enter into first before you start to even try to bring government or leadership. We can only judge disobedience when our own obedience is complete. Before you start to bring government and leadership into places, before you desire, like, oh, I want my family to be good, you too, you need to govern yourself so that your emotions are not in that place. So that you too, you are expressing something that is beautiful enough for people to want to hear. I'm telling you, there's a way that you are, that they are going to see that you are, not in your job achievements, but there's a way that they're going to see that you have matured, that even your parents will begin to listen to you. Because you are saying the thing kindly. Like, that's not the way you speak to your dad normally. You want to overdo, you want to overtalk. But you're like, Daddy, what if, I'm just thinking, Daddy, they will see the difference in you. I'm telling you, they will listen to the life of God in you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such a holistic answer. And I really like that you wrapped it up. I really wanted you to make that point that, like, the more we come, it's like the popular triangle analogy they often give in marriage. But we find that it can also work in family. The more we come close to God, the more it helps our relationship. We may not be best of friends. So some people need to, I think Chichi said, mourn that. You may not be besties, but you would have a better relationship and it will keep getting better. The older you are, the more much, and this is not, I'm not talking about age, but the more mature you are becoming as you get older, you're managing relationships better. I'll take the last question and we will close. This question is about romantic relationships. It says, can two introverts enjoy a successful marriage? I ask because it's often said that opposites attract to help each other's strengths and weaknesses. So what is the fate of same personalities in a romantic relationship, especially regarding communication? So when they say yes, we usually say that opposites attract. We see it happen a number of times. However, this does not mean that one extreme opposite and one extreme opposite must always attract. Sometimes you have two introverts, but there's always some form of difference. No two people are the same. So even though you are both introverts, there's still something different about you. Even if you're both extroverts, there's still something different about you. I'm saying this so that you don't believe that your relationship is doomed to fail because you are both introverts and you don't have the opposites that are attracting. It's not about the seemingly big opposites. As long as you are two different human beings, there is something about both of you that are different. And again, differences does not mean that they have to be two extremes. So if we say different, it doesn't mean one person must be an introvert and the other person must be an extrovert. It might be that two of you are extroverts, but there's still something different about you. You can have an extrovert that is a choleric and an extrovert that is a sanguine. They are both extroverts, but they have differences. You can have an introverted phlegmatic and an introverted melancholy. You know, my point is, whatever your personality types are, there will always be points of differences. Therefore, being both introverts does not doom your relationship. Your relationship will not fail because you are both introverts. Neither will it succeed because you are both introverts nor extroverts. Relationships rise and fall on the application of wisdom principles for the relationship. And most of these principles are godly principles from the Bible that, you know, you hear questions like, oh, I've seen two unbelievers that have good marriages. Check it. They are applying principles that are rooted in scripture. They may not go to church, but the principles they are applying is from the word of God. So your relationship is going to thrive, not because you are introverts or extroverts. Sorry, hold on. Ethan, please can you reduce that volume? Ethan, please can you reduce that volume? Thank you. Your relationship will thrive not because you are both introverts or extroverts, but because you are both learning to communicate properly. You both love each other. You are respectful of each other. You are considerate of each other. You are kind to each other. In your areas of weakness, you are able to help that person. Two introverts will not necessarily have the same weaknesses and strengths. Remember that it's not just your personality, your innate personality that makes who you are. So you can have two introverts, but family upbringing will make them different. You can have two introverts that were brought up the same way, but one is a firstborn, one is a lastborn. It has an influence, whether you like it or not, you know. So all of these things put together, the godly principles of relationship and marriage that you are applying to your relationship or to your marriage is what will make it thrive, is what will make it work. Whether you are different in your areas of similarity, in your areas of differences, as far as you are putting those things in place, both of you, it takes two, especially when it comes to relationship and marriage. It takes two. You know, it's hard enough when two are doing it. How much more if you are the only one? You know, a word to the singles. Don't be in a relationship where the other person doesn't want to be in. I think Oro said in the beginning, you cannot change anybody, you know. So I would wrap up by saying that the fate of your relationship, you are not doomed to fail because you are both introverts or because you are both extroverts. There are other things that you will be similar in and different in. The application of godly principles, the ability to get wise counsel when necessary, the ability to just apply what God's word says concerning relationship. Be patient, to be kind, to forgive, you know, to communicate, to have the right mindset. Those are the things that will make your relationship thrive. There are other things beyond personality. Your upbringing matters, you know. Sometimes different generations behave a different way. So a millennial introvert may see life different from a Gen Z introvert. So when we bring all of these things together, the godly principles of relationship and of marriage that we are applying trumps the personality similarity or differences that we may have. And with that, we have answered all the questions that came in. We did our best to give priority to that, and we have spent a good 2.5 hours. And so, like I said, we would unfortunately not be able to take any questions from the house because we're being respectful of your time. However, I put in the chat that if you have a question you really desire an answer to, you can send me an email, bologistephen@gmail.com. BOLOGISTEPHEN, bologistephen@gmail.com. Send your question there. If you have it in mind for any of our speakers particularly, you can mention that in the email, and we will do our best to respond to you either via email or whatever way. Our next open house session, by God's grace, will be sometime in October. So look out for the flyer and you will see that, and we can have that session. Thank you again, everybody, for being a part of this. Special thank you to my sisters, Mrs. Adindu, Pastor Oro, for being here against all odds. These are some of the perks of good relationships. These are some of the perks of good friendships. So please say thank you. Please say God bless you in the comments, in the chat. Appreciate these two women that have literally dropped everything to answer this call. Please appreciate them in the comments. Please give them their flowers, give them their honor, because of the sacrifice they have made to be here. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Feel free to log off. The replay will still be on YouTube. Bologi Stephen is the name of the YouTube channel, Bologi Stephen. So if you have a friend that you want to share this with, somebody that missed this session, or you want to also go back and watch the session again, it's on YouTube, Bologi Stephen. It's being streamed live, so it's there. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening, morning, rest of the day, wherever you are. We appreciate you. Bye-bye.